Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and this is the first of a series of videos where I'm going to do is I'm going to build a API with Django and a front end with Vue. But this time I'm going to use the front end CLI, so it's going to be a little bit more of a robust build. And I'm going to be setting this video. We're just going to set it up. So we're just going to set up the back end, the front end projects, get them initially deployed, and then in the coming videos we'll actually build out the project. Okay, why? Because you always want to deploy early, deploy often, because if you just deploy the shell of your project right away, you know the deployment worked. And then that way going forward, any issues that come up have to do with what you did, not your deployment strategy. So let's do this. And Django can always be tricky to deploy, so it's nice to get out of the way before you do too much, before you get too deep in there, and it's hard to tell like what you may have to change in your project. And yeah. So I'm going to be using Pycharm. Pycharm is sort of a IDE for Python from JetBrains. So I'm going to open it up on my computer. I have a little command that I set up to open it up, Pycharm. This will make your life a lot easier working with Python. You won't have to think too hard about virtual environments. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this project for a moment. Okay. And I'm going to create a new project. Okay, so I'm going to create it. I'm going to choose pure Python. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an existing interpreter, using an existing Python interpreter. I already have this environment set up from my previous Django project. But you probably would create a new one, a new virtual environment. And it's important that when you're working in sort of a different setup, so like if you're working in Flask, which is a different framework in Django, you have a separate virtual environment for that versus this. Think of it as like your package.json for like Node. A virtual environment, you really only want it to have the particular dependencies installed you need for that type of project. So for my Django projects, I have all my dependencies installed in this particular virtual environment. Okie dokie. And let's see here, where will I create this folder? More development, Django. I'll just create this, create a new directory here. Practice project. And we'll call it DV for Django Vue. Okay, so there's my practice project. I'm going to bake this project into there. And I am going to create. And here's the thing. Okay, so I'm going to open up my terminal. And I want to create two projects in this folder. So this is not going to be the folder where I create my Git repository. I'm going to have two subfolders, one with my front end, one with my back end. So first I want to spin up a new Django project by typing in the command Django admin. Well, first you need to install Django. So before anything else, you want to do a pip install Django to install Django, if you haven't done that already. Or pip3 if you have to use the pip3 command. Make sure that you basically want to make sure you know what version of Python you're using. Make sure you're using Python 3. So the way you can figure that out is you do python-version. Okay, see mine says 3.82. Yours might say 2.7. So if that's the case, go install Python 3, and Python 3 might end up being under a separate command. I don't think I have it under that command. I think it's just Python on my machine. Nope. Okay, so both of them will work for me. Okay. But the idea is that you might have to use the command Python 3 to access your Python 3 install. Same thing goes for pip. When you install pip, if you haven't installed pip, install it. That's going to be sort of your package manager for Python. -- version. Okay, so it'll tell you what version it is, and it'll tell you which Python it's working off of. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're using a pip that connects with the version of Python your Python command is running. Okay, ideally some version of 3. Not 2. Python 2 recently died. Recently they stopped supporting it. So just ignore Python 2. Cool. Now let's see here. 20.2. So we did that. So let me show you what I have installed in this particular virtual environment, so that way you can go install all those same dependencies. So the way you find out what has been installed, you type in pip list. This will list anything that's been installed in this particular environment. So pip list. So let me make this bigger. Okay. So really what you want to do is you want to do a pip install Django. You want to do a pip install Django environ. Do a pip install Django Heroku. Do a pip install Django REST framework and Django REST framework simple WJT. So pip install Unicorn. Pip install Psycho PG because we're using Postgres. And the rest should be downloaded if you install these, except pip should already be installed. But if you install these, the rest of these should automatically kind of come along with them. So these you don't necessarily need to download separately. Some of these other libraries kind of bring them along with them. Okay, but this is what you want to download. So you do a pip install, pause the video, pip install, all that stuff before we go any further. Okay, awesome. Okay. So now we'll start the Django project. So to start a Django project, you're going to use the command Django admin. And then you're going to do start project, which creates a new project. And we're going to create a project called backend. So we're going to create like a note app again. So we'll just say note backend. And that should have created a project. So if I go over here, look at my folders. So inside practice project, see right there, note backend. There's my, so that's going to be my backend project. We'll come back and explore that in a moment. Now let's create our Vue frontend project. Okay, first thing you want to do is you want to download the Vue CLI. So let me just find that command for you, Vue CLI. Okay, and you want to download that using this command right here, assuming you're using npm. If you're using yarn, then use this. I'm using npm, so I've already installed this globally, so that -g flag means you're installing it globally, so I already have the Vue CLI started in my computer, and then this is the command that starts a new project. So I'm going to do Vue. I'll just make sure it was that Vue create, if I remember right. Yep. Vue create, yes. So I'm going to do Vue create note frontend. Vue create note frontend. That's going to create a new Vue project. I'm going to use the default template for Vue 2. Okay. So that's going to then set this all up. And this will take a little while, so I will pause this until that is complete. And that is complete. So see, it's done. And now we have our two folders, front end and back end. Okay. So now let's go into our Django project and set that up for deployment and get that deployed first. Okay. There's a couple things we need to do. Okay. Now, to make this easy to remember, what I've done is if you head over to my toots.alexmercedcoder.com, where I have lots of tutorials, so check that out, toots.alexmercedcoder.com. I have this one article, Ultimate Django Reference, which has all the details you need for deploying Django, because it's, and all the commands. Actually, this is a pretty just good all-round reference for Django. Okay, first thing we want to do is set the database. Actually, we won't need to do it for this particular situation. Because we can leave it SQLite locally. I'm not going to even worry about the env variables right now. I'm not going to worry about that yet, really, because as long as we set up the Django Heroku, we do need to set up our .gitignore. So let me set that up. So I'm going to just copy this whole file, because we're going to need to commit this to GitHub, and I want to make sure that all the stuff that doesn't belong in GitHub doesn't get added. So I'm going to go over here, my root of my backend project, right click, create a new file, call it .gitignore. Okay, let's open that up. Okay, and then we're going to paste this whole thing. There we go. So that'll prevent things like .envs and whatnot from being uploaded. So we want that. Okie dokie. Then once the .env has been set up, we need to create a file called procfile with this command here. So I can just literally copy this. So once again, in our root folder, I'm going to create a new file called uppercase P ROC file. This is a file for Heroku. It just tells Heroku what to do once we upload it. So it's going to run this library called Junicorn, which starts a little web server, which is going to connect to this WSGI file, which tells it to like how to use Python for web. But I need to make sure this has the right name, which is Note Backend. It has to have the project name. So Note Backend.wsgi, and I can just double check that in this Note Backend folder, there's a WSGI file. That's kind of how that reads. It just means in the Note Backend folder, there's a file called WSGI. That's kind of what that means. So that's going to run when we upload that to Heroku. So that's done. That's done. Cool. We already have Django Heroku, so hopefully you installed that when I told you to install it earlier. So I just really need this line here. So what happens, we have to go into that secondary folder. So notice this is the project. Inside there, there's a folder with the same name. That's sort of your core project folder that your Django project kind of lives in. And in here, there's a settings.py, and this is kind of like the heart of your project of how everything works. So what I'm going to do here is at the top of this, I'm going to import Django Heroku. I want to import that. Love how Pycharm autocomplete stuff like that. It makes life a lot easier versus doing it in a non-Python specific IDE. And then I'm going to paste that line from the markdown, Django Heroku.settings. So what this does is that when we upload it to Heroku, this function is going to run and it's going to reconfigure all our settings to match Heroku. So it'll switch over to the Heroku database. It'll switch over to all those things. So you won't have to really think about it. Okay, it just does it for you, which is nice. Okay, so I don't have to change any settings. So by default, when I'm working locally, it'll continue to work with the SQLite database. When I upload it to Heroku, this function will just kind of override that and do the thing. Cool. So that's set. What else do I need to do? Let's go take a look at the thing here. So I guess at this point, we're good to start pushing it up to GitHub. Okay. So I'm going to head over to my GitHub, github.com. And I'm going to call this Note Backend. Okay, public, it's all fine with me. And then just do the usual, copy this. Then I'll go over here, add this, where am I in the, nope, I need a CD into the Note Backend folder. Note Backend. And then I'm going to paste that command, add the remote. Oh, first I gotta make the Git repository. So git init, git add, git commit, first commit. Okay, and then okay. Actually, while I'm here, I should probably try to make this font a little bit bigger. Appearance. Full screen. I think I have to go to settings somewhere. File. Here we go. Settings. Editor. Font. Let's just make the font a wee bit bigger. Let's make it like 20. There we go. So it's easier for you guys to read. Cool. So let me change the font in the terminal. Well, we'll see. Okay, good. Change the fonts everywhere. So that should make it a little bit easier to read. Okay. So just to make sure that I added that remote successfully. Well, first I gotta add the remote. I didn't do that yet. So let's copy paste that code again. Add the remote. Git remote. Let's see, was it added? Yep. Okay, now we do a git push origin master. Okay. And now I'm going to open up Heroku. And then from Heroku, we'll create a new project, create a new app. So we'll call this Note backend Django, note backend Django, create app. I'm going to connect it to GitHub. So let's say note. There's note backend. So let's attach that. That is connected. I'm going to enable automatic deploys, and I'm going to do a manual deploy to begin. Okay, and looks like there was an issue. No default language can be detected for this app. Who can I? Oh, I did forget a step. It's looking for the requirements.txt. So what I need to do is to see, again, earlier we did a pip.list. What I want to do is I want to take that information and put it into a text file. So you can do what's called Pip Freeze, and Pip Freeze will basically spit out that list. So do Pip Freeze, but I want to put it in a file. So what you want to do is do Pip Freeze requirements.txt, looking for that. So when you do that, it creates this requirements.txt file, which should be showing up in my root. See, there it is. And see, it lists all those dependencies for me that I have. So that way it knows what to do. So now I just need to add that to GitHub, git commit. Okay, requirements. Git push origin master. And that's going to push up again. And we'll see if that works out better this time. Okay, so keep an eye out here. That build should restart again. Django's always requires a bit of troubleshooting to get it initially deployed. I definitely find it to be sort of the trickiest one relative to like Rails, Express. I haven't done Buffalo lately, so I have to deploy that again. I don't remember it being that bad. And then if you use Docker containers, then they're all easy. But the hard part's learning Docker, which isn't that hard. But it is a paradigm shift. So that's building. So that's a good sign that's taking long. So that means it's going through the whole process. So it's downloading all the libraries. This is good. It's installing. Looks like it installed it all successfully. Okay. Manage that py. Okay. Collect static was successful. Good. This looks like it was a success. It's building. Doesn't necessarily mean that the site will actually work yet. But if it builds successfully, we're on the right track. Okay, looks like it completed. Good. So let's open app. And good. We see the default Django page. So this is successful. Okay. Now, keep in mind, I haven't migrated the database. So I will have to go back at some point and run some database migrations and whatnot. Let me just see if it automatically provisioned the database already. Yep, it did. Good. So we have the database there. So we're in good shape. So the Django project is deployed. Good. So now we'll move on and deploy the Vue project. Okay, so now I'm going to head over, get out of the Note backend, and head over to Note front end. So cd up, cd Note front end. Oops, cd Note f front end. And then, yeah, here I don't really need to do anything particular other than I think there's already a Git, like Vue already magically puts a Git repository in there. So if I do Git status, there should be one there. Yep. So just add everything. Git add. I don't even think I need to do that. Git commit -m first commit. Yep. Nothing to commit. So all I have to really do is just push this to GitHub. So GitHub. So we'll call this Note front end. Okay. Create another repository. Do the same thing again. Okay, I add this. Okay, get remote origin. Good. Okay, and then the next thing we do is we get push origin master. So now that's pushed up the origin master, and then like Vue already puts a git ignore in there, so you don't have to worry about that. Vue puts everything you need in there. So the CLI just kind of does all that for you. So I can refresh this. And there's my project, which really, again, it's just the default because we haven't changed it yet. I'm going to go back to Heroku and deploy that as well. And we're going to say new, create new app, Note front end. Okay, create app, And then once again, I connect it. Note, note. And there's Node front end. I connect it. And then I'm going to enable automatic deploys, do the initial deploy. Let's watch it. Oh wait, no, this is not where I'm supposed to do it. This is going to fail. I should have done this on Netlify. Let me just delete this project. My bad. Let's go over here and delete all this. Node front end. Copy, paste, delete. Okay, no, I want to do this on Netlify. We're deploying the front end on Netlify. I mean, I could have gotten that to work, but no. Login. It's much easier to do it here on Netlify. So let's see here, new site from GitHub. And then I'll just type in note. Give a second to find my repo. There it is, note front end. And here I have to type in, it should be npm run build. And then when it's done, it's going to deploy to the dist folder. Okay, that should do the trick. And then let's just watch this thing deploy, make sure it deploys successfully. Let's just go here and watch it. So see, it's doing the thing, using Ruby version, cache build plugin, using Swift version 5.2, started restoring cache node, installing npm modules. It's doing the thing. It's going to take a while the first time. Oh, there we go. It's doing the thing. Netlify build. npm run build. So see there, it's building the Vue project, which then builds everything inside of a folder called dist, all the final version stuff, and then that completed. So then it should just serve the files from that folder. So we should be, site is live. And there it is. There's the default Vue project. So there you go. Both of our projects are deployed. Now we just have to build it out, which we'll do over the next few videos. But that's it for this first video. I'll see you guys later on. Have a great day and enjoy.